we're live. Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. I'm your host,
Thanks so much.
dualta here with Claudia Gasson from Ortus Talent. How'd you come up with that name, Claudia?
Well, you know, the good old cliche, check out a Latin name in a dictionary. And Ortus means new beginnings or sunrise in Latin.
All right.
There
And
you
what
go.
what led you to setting up your own new beginning?
Oh, great question. Ultimately, I had felt like I had worked in recruitment and technology for a while, but it wasn't really like pushing my buttons enough, wasn't challenging me enough. So thought, you know, why not just go for it and push yourself out your comfort zone and just start your own company, see what happens.
Yeah, I had you as a candidate when you were going through that process. I think I may have told you to
Yeah,
stop wasting my time and just go do it.
absolutely. I remember distinctly being sat in lockdown and being sat on my sofa and you just saying, Claudia, just set up your own company.
Yeah.
So here
They,
we are.
yeah, you get to a point where you've done a few things and you have like you would back then people are like, well, they need to be able to come with their own book of business and they do 200 and we'll pay them 30 grand. You're like, well, if you can pay for yourself for 6 months and you can do all of that and the
Yeah,
market's challenging, it makes sense. So,
definitely.
all right. So Artist Talent was it formed in lockdown?
In lockdown, so March 2020. Technically, I registered the business in December 2020. So, you know, that was like right in the peak. And I think I was just sat at home thinking, you know, I could just do this, I could do it for myself. And,
Yeah.
you know, that was kind of the trigger, really, which is a pretty awesome opportunity, really.
Why do more women not think the same way?
Oh, good question. Imposter syndrome is the first thing that comes into my head, you know.
Mhm.
Um, I think also a lot like some women when they are a little bit more advanced at my age, like when you're pushing like your 30s, have other commitments, i.e. childcare, and that's a huge, much more of a bigger risk for them if they're paying, you know, a mortgage and have kids to look after, and you know they might think they don't have the time or they don't have the capacity even, you know, to do it, or the money ultimately. I think that's probably the biggest barrier for females, unfortunately, although men
What I
might have the same
wonder,
problem, but
yeah, it's a, it's. I know it's a difficult question. Men have less of an imposter syndrome. I think men
yeah.
typically think they're better than they are. Like from interviewing
No
so
comment.
many, yeah, so many men in recruitment over the years. Um, but it's always one that fascinates me because maybe you're right. Maybe more women lean towards going into that internal world because there is more security. And
Hmm.
so I don't know, but you've done it.
I have.
You took the risk. Has it been all plain sailing?
Absolutely not. No, there have been multiple occasions where I have thrown, like, wanted to throw in the towel. Specifically, probably I can think of two major times. So at the beginning of this year, we were waiting on a lot of invoices to be paid, and it was like quite tight cash flow. And ultimately, if everything came, it did all come in at once. But at the time, I was just like, "This is this really worth it? Like, this is impacting on my personal finance." However, since then, like as soon as I got those invoices paid, it completely changed the game, and I was just like, "Oh my God, I've got so much cash to like reinvest in the business," and I made some awesome hires from that, and so that was definitely like a pivotal point. That was definitely cash flow related. Separately to that, we had an incident with an awesome client of us. Like we were doing so well with them. We placed 15 people with them. They were a seed funded fintech company who were going through serious scale up phase. Unfortunately, one of their investors was with Klarna, and they had just, everything kind of was falling out of place with Klarna at the beginning of this year. And then their investor then pulled out of their Series A, who was a major investor of theirs. On that basis, unfortunately, it meant that I had a call with their VP of people and one of their senior salespeople on a Friday at 4 p.m. Nothing ever really good happens at that time.
So
Yeah, so I jumped on a Zoom with them, and they just said, "Look, we're gonna have, like, you've got 5 starters who are starting. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to pull the plug on those." um, which obviously isn't great. Um, Subsequently, after that, it turned out that things just got like progressively worse for them, unfortunately, which meant that they made every single placement of ours redundant, which was about 15 people at that time. Off the back of that, they basically just ended up not. We went into a bit of a legal battle because they hadn't paid a lot of our invoices, um, but it, eventually they managed to come out the other end, and we came to a really good settlement. So that was like the biggest challenge ever. That was like hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Legal's tough. Did you engage a certain well-known recruitment lawyer or?
I did indeed. I've forgotten their name now. That's awful. But they're based in Brighton.
Yeah. Was it
um,
backdoor Barry?
It wasn't Backdoor Barry, although I think I did reach out to them, but and they did give me some really good advice. But in the end, I did go with another firm. But they were really helpful, and ultimately that was a big learning. But off the back of that, we really tried to pivot and use that to our advantage. And
Yeah.
one client's off the back of it. So the people that we work with there moved to other businesses. And we're
Yeah.
working really well with them. So that's where there's like real like issues, and like you don't want that in the first year of business, really.
You can
And
guarantee
then
you're going to get it though. If you get off to a good start, it
yeah,
does it does happen. So
yeah,
these are VC-backed companies. Did you have enough money saved up to start your company, or did you have to go get funding, or did anybody approach you about funding, or like did you investigate
yes,
that process?
yeah. I actually looked at a few options. So some who were like those like incubators, who like give you all the support and all that kind of thing, but end up taking what like 10% of your revenue or something like that. I just in the end decided to just go ahead and do it myself, completely bootstrapped by myself, with my own personal savings. So um, yep, no external investment, and everything was on me, and I didn't get any loans or anything like that. So it was just purely personal savings, which was interesting. But hey, I think it's going to give me a good ROI, I'm hoping, on
Yeah,
my investment.
no,
So
it's a gamble. I speak to lots of people. Like, I think if you're going to get investment, like, I think you need to have a real growth strategy. If you're going to have like a lifestyle business, and I don't mean that as in a like I would consider us a lifestyle business. We're not being built to sell 50, 100 people or any of that. I think taking money off people isn't a good idea. But if you're like after that dream exit and they're and you're willing to put bums on the seat and do all of that and get all the money for that, then it makes sense. But
yeah,
without that, it doesn't. So
yeah,
um,
I know. I absolutely started the business with lifestyle in mind, with the opportunity to be fully remote and travel and all that good stuff. So that was definitely my initial. But then, and I thought it would just be me to begin with, but then we got approached by businesses who wanted to scale and do 20 hires and all this kind of thing at once. So I then recruited Simona, who's based in the Philippines, who's a digital nomad with us. So that kind of supported my
what's a
want
digital
to
nomad?
travel. Um, Someone who can literally log on from a laptop with Wi-Fi and travel.
Okay.
That's all you need, and be utilized through technology.
Okay. And is she a recruiter as well, or does she do your
Yeah.
ops? She's a recruiter. How do you does she stay in the one place for a long time, or like how do you make sure that like she's accountable and all of that's working fine?
So Simona is pretty much fully in the Philippines. So she
Okay.
moved out there about 3 years ago, so pre-pandemic, and she was traveling initially, but then got stuck in the Philippines.
Mm.
Subsequently, she's met someone in the Philippines, and they have got married, which is awesome. So she is there for now. She will be, but she might look to move around a bit in the future. So, but in terms of like ensuring she stays accountable and all that good stuff, I mean,
If
we
she's in the
just have
one place, then it's fine, right?
yeah, yeah. So that's not too difficult. Tony, however, likes to flit around a lot, and
Yeah.
she's worked from Barcelona, Albania, the Maldives, and she's currently in Edinburgh right now. But because she's such a strong performer, I never have any problem really with her going anywhere. The
Mm.
only issue is that she's asked me if she could work from Bali, which is a different time zone to really what she's been working on. And sometimes that works for us because we do have roles in, like, for example, in Singapore.
Yeah.
And she can also get the West Coast from there in the morning. So on the US. So that works well from that perspective. But it's just making sure that our roles or work that we have on at the moment is going to be conducive to
Mm.
those time zones. So, and also I told her she could only stay in Bali for a month, and then we will have a look at if she can then extend thereafter. Otherwise, I just don't want her to burn out if she's working really late into the evenings.
So at the moment, you've got uh, one in ops, two in marketing, and two recruiters in you. Is that right?
And I got three recruiters and me, and then we got ops and marketing.
Okay, cool. Three recruiters in you. How do you manage those guys? Like they're all fully remote. Do you guys like do daily meetings or like what does that look like from a communication standpoint? Because lots of people are like, oh, that sounds great, but how does it work in practice?
Sure. So we have a Monday objectives meeting. So we'll all log on at 9 a.m. UK time and essentially set out objectives for the rest of the week. We'll then do a check-in midweek on like a Wednesday, and then just see how we're progressing, any bottlenecks, and then we'll do the same thing on a Thursday because we do a 4-day working week. Um, we also use like Slack, Notion, and we have obviously a CRM, which is all obviously cloud based. I mean, we work in
Do you not
the
work on
cloud obviously.
Fridays?
No, a 4-day working week.
This is insane. You're insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you doing?
What if I've got all my team traveling around? You know,
I'm
they've
getting,
got to
I'm getting
explore where
anxious.
they are.
I'm getting anxious. There's people all around the place. They're only working 4 days a week. Oh, you're losing. You're losing. Like, so, and are they happier there? How did like? Do you think you get more out of them on the 4 days than you would on five? Or
Well, we're trialing it. We trialed it since August, and we're trialing it until the end of the year just to see how it goes. So I mean, to be honest, we've had a better quarter, definitely in terms of performance than we did like. Well, since we've implemented it, has productivity gone up? Have we built more? Yes,
Mhm.
so far. So that's pretty good from that perspective. And I'm such a believer in not tiring yourself out. I used to work my first ever recruitment role, had to be in the office at like 7 a.m. Working till 8 p.m. in order to get European hours in and then finishing up on whatever time zone we were working
Proper
on.
order. Proper order.
So like I don't want people in my team to be working that. I
Yeah.
want them to work literally the set hours and log off when they need to. Or we just do flexible hours where they just shift their working day slightly to whatever time zone that they're working or wherever they
Yeah.
are. So I don't want burnout. I'm very anti burnout because I have burnt out majorly previously, and I think that I don't want anyone to suffer in terms of like their mental health or anything like that. It's so important for me that everyone is like tip top, happy, and enjoying what they do.
Yeah.
So
Does this scale?
does this scale?
Yeah.
Um, so far I mean, yeah, I don't know. How can I tell you that? I mean, I hope so. All the processes.
Well, you can tell me, is that in your strategic plan now? That
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mean, all of the processes that we have in place are documented on Notion. Everything is available. So therefore, I'd like to think it can scale. Yeah, absolutely. We want to scale next year. Want to add probably 6 more headcount at least next year in terms
wow.
of recruiters. So that's the plan.
And when you visualize what this business will look like, do like what brands out there at the moment, like do you model yourself on?
Do you know what? I really do admire a brand that I used to work for, Salt, who are in multiple locations. So when I worked with them, I think they had 8 or 9 offices, and now they've expanded to different offices. But having that global brand where every people know who you are,
Hmm.
um, in mainly, so for example, for us, like the EMEA region, USA and APAC,
Yeah.
we have we have a lot of business that is grown organically through businesses that we work with in, for example, the UK, and they want us to hire them for the US
Yeah.
or Singapore. So ideally, we'd have someone in the US, like a hub in the US, a hub in APAC, and covering those regions from different locations. Like I'm quite happy as long as they're in that time zone. But ultimately, yeah, to have like a head of US, head of APAC, and then head of UK, and then build out the teams around that.
Lovely. But they're more of a traditional business. They have offices and
Yeah.
they like they're Monday to Friday. They have
Yes.
KPIs and they all of
Yeah.
this stuff. How do you model your like how do you visualize going from this nice, beautiful little pod of people being happy and traveling and that to it being salt? Is there some
I don't necessarily want to get as big as Salt are now. I
yeah,
think I still want to stay like fairly boutiquey. So, but I don't know of any brand that offers the scale that we do. I think we are the birth child of, post-COVID times, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
I don't think, and those bigger organizations don't have the flexibility or like
yeah.
they are entrenched in what they have and they do offer flexibility, I think, but not as much as like we can.
Yeah, the business that pops to mind that you could model yourself on is Katrina Hutchison's Join Talent. Um,
Okay,
just they're fully remote. They're in the RPO and they grew to like 200 post COVID, like super quick. But
nice.
they would have had a very like they would have been able to poach out heavy like big hitters in the internal world and then scale out those remote teams on that. So it does scale. I know I'm breaking balls a little bit. I was just trying to see where your head was at with it. Um, the managing remote teams and remote recruiters is tricky. What type of tech are you using to make it all happen?
So, well, at the moment we use, as I mentioned earlier, so Slack, Notion, we use Vonage as a cloud calling system, and we use Leo as a CRM. We are looking at changing our CRM because of like lack of reporting tools, to be honest. Like it's really important for me to analyze data,
Yeah.
and Leo really lacks in that respect. Sorry, Leo.
This
Oh,
podcast is sponsored by Luxo and Sourcewell. There we
um,
go.
so there you go. Yeah, I am looking to change that because of that. But yeah, because you need to have that data. You need to understand what everyone's doing on the day to day. Be able to look at a dashboard and just see, okay, where are we at, what's happening, and all that good stuff. But within our objectives, we do that on Notion. So we have those pages which basically tracks everyone's movements, how many CVs they're sending out, interviews, and all that kind of thing.
The You've worked yourself. Give us a list of some of the places that you've done that you've logged on and worked from over the last while.
Um, so I spent a month in Lisbon last year.
Yeah,
I worked from Crete. I worked from Barcelona. I worked from New York last week.
yeah.
Um, where else? Italy, up in the mountains, which was pretty epic. Um,
That's pretty epic. Was that a nice moment?
Absolutely. Like, you kind of the traditional sense of working recruitment is like
Yeah,
smashing the phone to a desk. Um, but instead, I was with my laptop looking out at mountainous views by Lake Como. It's absolutely delightful.
amazing.
So,
Why is everybody not doing this?
because they have commitments with family, maybe their partners that like have jobs which have to make them
Yeah.
stick to where they are. Even with if you have kids, you can't be so mobile because they need to go to school or unless they're homeschooled. So I think those are probably like quite big factors that hold people back. But I think honestly, some people have a real lack of fear. Like just go and do it. Go live the life that you want to live. Like what's
Yeah.
holding you back? I think a lot of people are just scared to take that step. And I've lived and moved abroad twice already. Lived in Vancouver and I've lived in Australia. And I think that once you take that first step, you build that confidence to absolutely just go for it. And there's nothing that can hold you back. And that, without a doubt, has helped me to set up my own company. Like giving me that
Yeah, interesting.
inner confidence to, like, you've been scared before, but just go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Honestly, you can always come back to wherever you were or what you were doing.
Um, when you're looking to build out this company, um, is it going to be done through experienced hires always because of the remote aspect?
Yeah, so I hired someone who didn't have any recruitment experience prior, and I think
Bloody
whilst
hard.
yeah, like she was awesome, great girl, but I think unfortunately I learned from that, and personally, I didn't have the time or capability to be able to fully train someone. So moving forward, I will only hire experienced hires now, yeah,
Yeah,
which makes it a bit tricky
yeah.
until we scale and we have an L&D function.
It's a it's tough one, because you figure out what your ideal persona is after a while. Like, I'm sorry, but men just don't work out in our company. Um,
Mhm.
like well, you've met the girls, right? So
Yeah.
um, they're not too dissimilar to yourself in many ways.
Mhm.
Like, I'm going to use the word confident, assertive, um, and I'll stop while I'm ahead. Um, but so we it took us a long time, and every time I go outside of it, it doesn't work. So we know that we kind of got our engine room in the Philippines, and that's where a lot of our sourcers and ops and that side. And then I think we have three senior recruiters in the Eastern Europe now, and
Yeah.
that's kind of worked for us. Um, have have you got the ideal persona down of the person who's going to be successful within your
So,
business?
so we do personality like Myers-Briggs tests, just a real simple one
Yeah.
whenever someone comes on board with us. The traditional recruiter that you hire is a really like loud, boisterous person, or so it used to be, I
Are
think.
they though?
Well, this is the thing. So, I mean, that's what I think a lot of people think that they should be. I've hired a lot of introverts, who are incredible delivery, like they are incredible in delivery. And even on, when it comes to account management and managing the clients and that kind of thing, with my support and help, I've given them the confidence that actually they can do that side of things as well. So I think it's all about, I think honestly, hiring over um rather than like experienced hires. I think someone's really engaged with me, like if they message me, follow up, and that kind of thing, that's a really good sign in a hiring process for me. But also that they're hungry and they're excited about what we do, and like how we do things differently. Because if you've just hired someone like who's a bit of a copy and paste job, that makes sense. Like they've gone from a corporate to a corporate to a corporate
Yeah.
recruitment, that like that would never work for us, because we're all a little bit different. Like we celebrate our differences. How we're not how like we're challengers basically to the traditional recruitment model. So there you go.
Yeah. It's a tricky one to get right. It to go for the introverted type is interesting. I
Mm,
I usually try and go for people who just give a shit and
yeah,
are diligent
exactly.
and
Yeah.
are mature. I find women are better than men. What do you think? Do women make better recruiters than men? It's going to be a highlight.
I Well, I like to say that women have high levels of emotional intelligence, which goes a long
Don't
way in
agree. I don't
recruitment.
agree with that.
Do you not?
No, not at all.
Well,
Not at all. Like,
I'm inclined to believe that.
where did you pull that from? Have you been watching daytime television again?
I love a bit of Lorraine. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I don't have time for Lorraine. Are you kidding? No, I think, yeah, overall, I think with delivery side, from what I've got with my team so
Yeah.
far, has been really effective. However, I will be looking to hire more business development focused individuals in the new year, which will be, I imagine, there'll be a different character. Um, then, although I don't know, you never know.
No.
But I've worked with both introverted and extroverted recruiters who have been excellent. And I've worked with some wacky, wonderful recruiters with amazing character, but they help to get people to buy in because people remember them.
Yeah.
So I love a bit of character, I love something a little bit weird and unique about people because people remember them as
So I
well.
think
So,
how I found that women are better than men. It's not on their ability to analyze anything or their emotional intelligence. I don't believe that at all. Um, they're definitely just, especially mothers, they're super diligent, um, and they're hardworking and they're organized and they can follow a system and a process. And most men, me included, I find them
yeah.
to be a little bit too scattered. Now, there's
Yeah,
amazing male recruiters out there. Just haven't been able to hire any. So it's
yeah. From my experience, I would absolutely agree with you. Women are much better at process, men are not. And I do struggle a bit with that because I am process driven, but I'm quite chaotic as well. And I need a team around me that are able to push through the process in my
yeah.
chaos.
Do you have to, because I have to do this a lot. Like, do you have to build processes around you that almost like make up for your lack of skill in that?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I've hired fabulous people who have inputted processes into the entire organization that I could have never dreamed of. So they have put the order in my chaos, which is just a delight. And also, I work with a business coach as well on we speak once a week and talk about all the things that are going on in my world, and she helps me put order to my chaos as well.
Oh, nice. Are there any women in the recruitment sphere that you've looked up to that you've come across?
Well, I think it would be rude if I didn't mention a few of like my former colleagues because, like for example, Emma Lohman at Salt, who runs the software sales desk, so technically my competitor. We used to work together, and we've held women in sales events together when we worked together, and she was just an awesome human, an incredible recruiter, and knows so much about the industry and worked with amazing companies. So definitely her. Other women that lead or other recruitment organizations, I can't really think of like too many because it is very male dominated, unfortunately. I'm trying to think if there are any. There are a lot of incredible like directors and managers, but none like
Mm,
no. There's a real lack of female founders that I know about. I'd love
yeah.
to know more, and I'd love to network with more. Um, so Sam Maxwell Reed as well, who ran Expand. Um, so very similar to what we do as well. I recently met her at an event and we caught up, and she was so supportive of what we do because also being female founder, it really resonated. So I would say her, but now she doesn't own that. Now she does more consultancy work and that kind of thing rather than because she sold her business through
Yeah.
an MBO. But
What,
there you
what
go.
about what about business people out there in the universe? Is there anybody that you've you've studied off or that has inspired you?
I've done a lot of, I listen to loads of podcasts to be honest. Like, so there isn't one in particular. Like, I follow a lot of podcasts, for example, like the High Performance podcast, um, and also your podcast, to be honest, and a few other recruitment
I've been
podcasts.
meaning to get into the high performance podcast. It's supposed to be really
It's
good.
re it is really good. I really recommend that. It's just like when you're walking the dog or doing whatever, it's just such a good time to really, it gets, honestly,
You
I
don't even
will
do
be
it for
listening.
walking the dog. You're doing a 4 day week.
What do you mean
Like,
I do on a Friday is my walking the dog day now.
is it?
It's just a really good time to process and come up with loads of ideas, and then I come up with all those ideas and send them on Slack to my ops manager, and she's like, "Claudia, stop, too many," and I'm like, "Okay." So there
Yeah.
you go.
Well, I hope you go and have a look at Joint Talent now and just be pilfer
Yeah,
of their journey. And I think they're in the Sunday Times last week, so it's
I think I've definitely heard of them.
I've
I
I've
think
had
I
the
can see their branding
I've had
in
her
my
on my
head.
podcast. She's really good. So
Fab.
it's like they've done a better version of a couple of other well-known RPO brands. I'm not gonna stamp on them. Um,
Yes.
all right. So if you could do it all over again, what would you have
Yeah.
done differently? Because you're 18
Oh,
months in.
yeah, about 18 months, just over,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. What would you do differently?
That is a very good question that I haven't
Would
thought
you
about.
hire quicker? Would you have put more money into marketing quicker? Would you have not gone down certain roads with certain clients? Is there
Yes, I think some clients have definitely been a waste of, like, well, not a waste of time at all. I think some clients we've had some experiences with, but only me personally. I think sometimes I've definitely learned to be a little bit less, not pushy, but because I'm not a pushy recruiter, but what I mean is where I've been advising them. For example, we work with a client who would only have people in the office 5 days a week. And obviously that's not our personal ethos. And I think we were posting loads about it on LinkedIn about being like remote working, flexible working, and probably hammering it home too much, which didn't reflect our market. so much, which I think, and then subsequently I told one of the clients, like, you need to be more flexible, you need to at least do one day from home for a week, and then like they kind of stopped working with us. I think that was too much for me hammering that home, and they didn't really like that so much. But the thing is that we wasted so much time, like,
Yeah.
screening candidates that, like, and so that wasn't a profitable client because we wasted so much time, like screening 25 candidates for one person to get forward.
Wow.
What? And that just wasn't on. So now I know to just be like, okay, great. I'm far more selective about who we work with rather
And
than saying yes to everything.
and now you've got the basic infrastructure in place. You've got your marketing, your apps, a couple of recruiters, you've got your process, your systems, a few major accounts, a few major accounts have dropped off. You're building your wider business from that. So you've had a lot of lessons, a lot of stuff. Where you're at now, if we catch up in 18 months' time,
Yeah,
how big will you be?
18 months time. I would like to say 20 people headcount.
Wow.
Um, I think that we can scale with the work that we get in. The good thing is that I'm fairly, I say this tentatively but confidently because a lot, like, I'm very, very all about personal branding. I've got a lot of business off it. I won our big, like, one of our biggest accounts last year.
Hmm.
As soon as I started the company, Bolt, off the back of a post that I put out on LinkedIn about being all about, females in tech and all this kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and off the back of that, I've won lots of business. Like, we do get a lot of inbound business. And if we keep that strategy ongoing and really shouty about our ethos and our beliefs and our personal brands individually and as a business, I'm very confident that that is scalable to quite an extent because we do get a lot of inbound business from it. So I'm all about that. So I think that that is possible. Um, and I'm up for it. Like, I want to get to the next sort of phase of scaling to that point. So that would be the ideal. And I'm all about manifestation. So if I put that in in the universe, and
Yeah, well,
hopefully it'll come around. I
um,
have now. I have to be accountable to it now.
all right. So to finish up, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
Uh,
you.
I think when I was starting out in Guatemala as a digital nomad and trying to put remote teams together, like it's nice to see that other people are manifesting it in a different way and better disciplines and it because I always thought, oh, this could work. It'll be nice to see if you're able to continue on this 4 day week. I probably work a 4 day week, in honesty, but
Exactly. That
not
sounds like.
officially, not officially. 4.5 days a week. That's what we were taught at Robert Walters.
Yeah.
Um, but it's exciting to see the journey that you're on. If somebody's thinking of setting up by themselves, what advice would you give to them?
Make sure you have enough run rate in terms of cash for at least 6 months,
How much do I
maybe
need?
even,
How much do I need?
well, like, whatever their monthly expenses are and a bit more.
Yeah.
Because so that's probably what it would be. So, like, what depends on what their mortgage is, all that kind of stuff. But that's what I'd say is an absolute minimum. I would also honestly just say, like, what is the worst that can happen? Because you can always just go and get another job, take the risk. You're going
Yeah.
to learn from it. You're going to have massive highs, massive lows. But overall, hopefully, it'll be worth it.
All right. Thank you so much, Claudia. Well done on your success to date, and we wish you the
Thank
best for
you.
the future.
Thanks so much.